Video. Today I'm going to go over, or at least within this video, how to write a username and password verification program. It's pretty beginner friendly. I'm going to be using a Python compiler. If you're at your own computer, you're more than welcome to go out to say Google, and what I would recommend doing is typing in a phrase called Jupyter Notebook, and then going to jupyter.org and downloading a some software. It's called Anaconda, and once you're there, if you click on Jupyter Lab, there's a really good compiler. That being said, not everyone has that capability. I can certainly get with you if you have a specific question around Jupyter. Another pretty good compiler is called Program IZ, and then just typing Python. You can actually type this in for almost any language. It's a free compiler. I like this one. It has some advanced options. You can do some things like import some libraries that aren't available in other Python compilers such as W3 Schools. Don't get me wrong, I love W3 Schools, and I think this is a very good resource to run through and get the basics on Python programming. But if you really want to learn programming, you have to get access to a better compiler. So this is a pretty good one. I will definitely work with this. Also, I do recommend keep W3 Schools or other resources open if you have specific questions. Programming is it's just one of those things where you can run through and try to get the basics down. Unless you keep up with it for days, weeks, months, years, it's going to take a while for you to remember it, or at least be to where you can recall it on a regular basis. A lot of times when you're beginning a language, you'll get the basics down, so I know where to go if I need to look up something, but I will need to still go and do some basic references, or you might as well. So I'll show you how to use this when you're coding. It's not uncommon for coders to utilize resources, especially when you get, again, once you kind of have the basics down and you're trying to get into more advanced topics. Very few people I know memorize virtually all of the sequences and things you can do with a particular coding language. For instance, there's over 150 things you can get trained up on just for Python alone in W3 Schools, and this is still not comprehensive. In addition to just hundreds of other programming languages you can't learn. So most people don't memorize everything, but they have a pretty good general idea about the main things they're going to use, and then they know where to go find information when they need it. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and put a comment here. Something wrong. Let me clear this out. Let's go over here to my main compiler. So once you're on program IZ, we'll go ahead and delete some of these lines here. I'll kind of walk you through. Again, I recommend writing out a flowchart if you haven't had one. So I've got a basic flowchart. I've scripted. So I'm going to use the hashtag. I'm just going to make a quick comment. Remember, hashtags, they're just to make comments. That code is not going to run. So this is a quick note. This is a username and password program. Okay, then I'll hit enter. All right. So at the end, I'll probably copy my code over. I don't think you can save this in Program IZ, and certainly not if you can't log in. Copy, paste it, stage it on a Google document. That way, if you're not finished, you can always come back and paste it right in here. So, all right. So let's go ahead and look at this. So the main thing you're going to need right now, and there's really two parts, username and then password. I'm going to build out username first. If you do that, it's a pretty simple copy paste with the exception of swapping out some variable names for password. So I'm going to create a username, and then I'm going to use the input function. Now, if you're not familiar with that, again, that's why I say keep these options open. You can come over here and see how to set this up. So username, this allows a user to type in what they want. So enter username. Okay, we'll put a little space there. I recommend that you try to run your code almost every 2 to 3 lines just to make sure what you're looking for, or certainly after each major block. So username, help. All right, nothing's going to happen. I have not asked this to print anything. Matter of fact, I don't think I'll even have a major option for that until towards the end, but I will set this up just so you can see how this kind of works. Whoops. Your username and password are valid. Okay, I'm gonna have this down here. Basically what this line will do is it'll run through each line. It's going to go from 3 and then straight down to 17 here. I'll just show you what it looks like. We do not have the password in here. I'm going to get to that part in a little bit. So enter username, help. All right, then it will automatically just jump straight down to this line and say your username and password invalid, or are valid. Okay, so let me clear that out. Next thing, if you really think about this, whenever you have these username, password verification programs, let's say you go out to Gmail and you open up an account, you'll get asked to input your information and then probably input it again because it wants to make sure you typed in the right thing twice. Same thing with a password. All right, that way the system is for sure this is the password you want. So it's a good simple project to kind of get your feet wet with Python and programming just in general. So input, enter username again. I'm going to put again after this one, so when it prompts, I've already entered my username once. If you notice, this one's called username v_vr. That's my verification username. That's important. I'm going to run this, make sure this asks me twice. Okay. All right, if I type in the wrong thing, nothing's going to happen right now because I haven't exactly built this out to look at if things are invalid or not. So again, just want to make sure I got the basics down here. All right. After that, I will want to make a quick little variable declaration. I'm just going to say UN equals username. I like to just break this out just so I don't have any confusion with username later in my code or if I try to rename something. So I just want to I'll probably reference the variable UN, but it literally will equal whatever username is because I'm declaring that right there. So it's the same thing. Just in case I happen to, say, run my code and I forget to add underscore verification and it keeps referencing username. So I'm going to use UN just so I can keep that a little different for my own purposes at this point. All right. Again, if you're better at coding or you have some more knowledge, by all means, utilize a method that works for you. All right. Next, I want to make something called a function. All right. Functions are basically code that we can run. We can put it on the side. Now, there isn't really a place on the side. What I'm going to do is just define it up here in the upper part, but I can call this code whenever I need it. So I'm going to call this one my username. Okay. All right. Now, if you're not familiar with how to set up the functions, you're going to define it. Make sure you have the parentheses after it. If I wanted it to be, say, my underscore username, that's totally fine as well. I'm just going to keep this pretty simple. All right. Within this, I'm going to make something called a global variable. All right. And the global variable is going to be username underscore ver. If you notice, that's the same one that's up here on line 4. The reason is because the username, you should only type that in once. However, if you keep typing in the wrong username verification, I need that to be able to change to be whatever it is at the time you're typing it in. So that's why I'm going to change this to something called a global. A global will allow that variable to constantly change its value based on the input. So I'll walk you through this here as we go. Next, right after this, I'm going to have a username verification. So same variable, and it's going to say equals, and then input, and then enter user name again. All right. Oops. And then we'll say please, just to be nice. Okay. All right. So I feel like I have a pretty good function here. And if you need kind of a quick refresh on functions, go and look at Python functions. So you're going to define it. For this one, it's just a simple print. We're not going to call this function right here. They have this immediately after. I'll show you where we'll call it. Again, I'm just declaring my function, and I can call it when I need it. All right. So hopefully you've already went over at least the basics in Python. That's why I love going over, say, W3 Schools. You get the basics down, but you don't really see how a function works here because it immediately calls it. Here, we're going to write it, the call is where it says my underscore function parentheses. That's how you call it. I'm not going to call this until I get to that part in the program. So I've got my quick little function up here. All right, next, I'm going to use something called a while loop. Basically, I want to run the program as if the username and the verified username don't match. So if someone just keeps typing in the wrong verification username, the program will keep asking them until they get it right. I need these to match. That is the purpose of this. All right. And if you think about it, if you go out to Google or Yahoo, it's going to ask you, what's your password? Are you sure? Is this the same password? Type it in again. I want to make sure. All right. Now that you've typed it in twice in a row, I'm assuming you know that's what the password is. That's why they ask you that. Okay, so here I'm going to make a while loop. Now, a while loop is something that goes over and over and over until a condition is typically met. All right, so for this one, we're going to use my variable un up here, which again, that's the same as the username. And I want to run this until un does not equal. Now, if you're unsure with operators, again, go up here, look at your basic operators, plus, subtraction, multiplication. And then, let me see if I can find out where it does not equal at. It's been a not equal right here, exclamation point, equal sign. Again, whether you know these or not, I don't memorize all of these in each situation, but I do know where to go to find them. So I don't use every single operator each time I make a program. It just depends on what the program is. All right, so while my username does not equal my username verification, all right, then I need this program to run. So here's what I'm going to say. If un equals, and I think for this one I'm going to use the double. I just want to double check. There we go, equals. So for this one, I am going to use it when I'm running it within for comparison purposes. So if un equals username verification, then I want this to print your username is valid. Okay. All right. From here, as long as this is good, I can probably utilize something called a break, and I can have this loop in. So long as they type it in and it matches, I want to break out of this loop. Otherwise, it's going to keep running this loop over and over and over again. And I don't want that. Okay. Else. So this is within some of this, you got to go through and possibly do a quick refresher. So if else. So here we're declaring a if statement. So if b is greater than a, print b is greater than a. Well, in this case, they're the same. So else if a and b are equal. I'm not going to use elif. I'm just going to go straight with if and else. Some programs require you use all three. I only have really two outcomes here. So if and else are the two. If there's sort of a middle ground, so b greater than a, do this. Otherwise, if a equals b, do that. Finally, if neither b is greater than a or a is greater than, or a and b is greater, a and b are greater or equal, then finally it wants you to go down and then say, fine, this is the last resort, a is greater than b. So else is kind of your last resort. I don't really have three. It's either username matches username underscore verification or it doesn't. There's only two options. So the other thing is I do need to put the colon here. So make sure you have everything kind of set up so they have the colon underneath if, and then they have it right here by else as well. So always double check your code. These are the small things. Coding is not so much about you getting good at coding as it is about you just getting organized. So, okay, here's what I want to call my function. So I have my username. So this basically what I'm saying here is, well, if these two are as long as they're not going to be equal, I want this program to double check. So if un equals username, then it'll say your username is valid, and then it'll just move right on out of the loop and go to the next part, which will be the password once I get there. Else, I want it to call this function, which will constantly ask it over and over and over again, please re-enter your username again. All right, or please enter your username again. So I'm going to call that, and then make sure that correct code right. So if you want to do a quick double check, just go and look at your notes or look out any of the resources that you have as far as where you're learning about some of the basic things. So again, functions, if you want to make sure you have that set up right, so when you call the function, just make sure you have that set up. So it looks like I have that, may not need that colon. All right, and then I want to say print your username is not valid. Okay. What it should do here is just constantly run straight through and then until this username is valid. So let's try to do a quick little test here on this. And then the only time it should really jump down and print is if this is if it does say your username is valid. It'll come down and say your username and password are valid. I understand I've not added the password code yet, but I have that part already set up. So let's see if we have any errors. Okay, so this is not a big deal. So let's just go through, take a look. Okay, so line 14 is saying we have an error here. Basically, you need to indent the block after an if statement. So if I'm correct, that will be a couple spots indent it. Okay, I don't think I need an indent down at this one, but let's check it again. Okay, so line 16, else. Let's see what we have here. Invalid syntax error. So I just want to double check that and see what it wants me to do there. Oops. May not need to do that. Okay, so it's still giving me an error there. Code exited with error. So if you're running into errors, probably a good idea to go back, take a quick look, see what is going on with this. So print indent it, else, that one's fine. B greater than A. Okay, so this one looks okay from what I can see. All right. Let me see here. I'm gonna run this back. I'll just play around with this a little bit. Sometimes it takes a little bit of patience to find out where the error's at. All right. Okay, let's see if this is the case here. Okay, line 13, if indented block after a while. So it definitely wants the indented block. 1, 2. Okay. See if that helps. Line 16, else. Most recent call last file main.py. Line 16, else. So I definitely want to see what's going on with this one. I'm going to take out the break for right now. Expect an indented block after else statement on line 15. So it sounds like it wants, it's a different error. So, okay, all right. Sounds like it did not like the break there, so that's fine. So let me take a look at where else I want to put that break in there. Okay, so username, let's go with help, and then I'm going to type in helper. So it says, please re-enter username again. Help did not equal helper. I'm going to type in helper again. Your username is not valid. Please enter username again. Helper, username not valid. Please re-enter again. Helper, username. So this will constantly loop through this until I type in one that matches. And then once it is matching, it'll say your username and password are valid. So it will give me that message at that time. Okay. So here's where Let me double check this one. Call my username. Let me try putting break here, because it did post your username is not valid before it went down and said they are valid. So I want to put the break before there. So when it reads this code, it'll when it calls this function, if they do match, it should run through that code again, and then it should break before it gets to that print, and then go down to the very end as long as the usernames match. Let's double check. Helper, please re-enter username again. Okay, so all right, your username are valid. Okay, so I don't want the break right there. So I'm going to take that out for right now. We can come back and get that part here in a little bit. Okay. Okay. May not even need that part in here. So let me double check. First, if I type in that and then those do match, it automatically goes straight down to the bottom. So that part works. We know that. Let's try this one more time. Helper. Okay, now it's saying, please re-enter your username again. Helper. Username is not valid. Please re-enter your username again. This is where it's just looping through. So we have that part pretty good. Okay, and then if I do type in the right one. All right, so I'm going to come back to this one here in just a minute. I do want to update this. Let me see if the break is probably not at a spot where I want it. So let me double check that. Helper. Your username is not valid. Okay. Your username and password. So I'm going to leave the break out of there for right now. Let me double check this real fast. So again, one of the things I would try to do is copy your code out if you're unsure of something, and then have that pasted somewhere where you can take a look at it later if need be. But I will go in and take a look at this here in just a minute. Okay. All right. This is up to a point where I'm okay with it. I certainly have a few more things I want to look at. I will come back to that in a minute. Yeah, because the break, for some reason, is not doing exactly what I want, where I want it to do that at. So I will come back and look at that part here in a minute. Once you're at a point, though, to where it's allowing you to to type in the right information, then you want it to bump over. So help. So if I type in the same one twice, it should in theory just go straight down to print your username. So that part's working just fine. Okay. All right. Then so if username equals is valid, maybe it's continue. See if that's the one. Maybe not break. While loops. So again, bring these open. I'm going to try to get this fixed before I move on. Break. Okay, so here you're saying while it's less than 6, print I if I equals 3, break. Okay, so stop the loop even if that could be interesting. So maybe I need to indent that. Could be something as simple as that. Line 15. No, did not like that. Print. I do want it to print that, but then I certainly want it to I don't need it to print that because I already have the other one at the bottom. Let me do this. Let's just break out of it at that point, and then it'll pretty much already say your username and password are valid. So that'll go to the very end of the program. Again, less code's better. So let me see here. Help. Your username and password are valid. So that goes straight to it. It breaks out of the loop there. I do want to tie this in one time. Help. Helper. Please re-enter it again. Helper. It's not valid. Please rename. Okay. So the only thing I need to do is, it does keep coming up and saying your username is not valid. So it's almost like it's going down and printing that, which I don't necessarily need it in the program. It could effect just skip right out of that. So again, less code's better. As long as I have the function here, it'll actually just keep asking for this. I don't need to say it's invalid. Or what I could do is just say, I could add that right here. Your username is incorrect. Please enter username again. I can just build that into that part. So that, in effect, should clear this up. Help. Helper. Username's incorrect. Please enter again. Helper. Username's incorrect. Please enter it again. Help. Your username and password are valid. Okay, that seems to be the easiest way to do this. So, least amount of code, as I mentioned. All right. Next, this part of the program looks at the password. Okay, for verification. So not only do I want the username, I want the password to match. Okay, this one's actually pretty simple. We're literally going to copy all of this and bring it down here. And instead of username, I'm going to have password verification, or just enter password. Okay, there actually is a way to mask this, but I'll cover that in a different video. Let's make sure we get the basics down here first. And what I mean by mask is to hide it. So enter password again. A lot of times you don't want someone to see your password. Actually, I might be able to show you. I'll see if I can remember it. It's not on W3 School, so it's just some other things I've picked up through time. So I'm going to call that PW, and I'm going to make sure PW matches up. So when you're coding, look for places where you can save some time. So we're just going to swap out pretty much anything where it says username with password, because we're essentially doing the same thing. Except we're using it for the password. Hey, type in a password. Does it match? If it doesn't, let's go over this. Your password's incorrect. Please enter password again. So, and then we'll come down here while. Make sure you get all of these changed, because if I leave that, what it'll do is it'll compare it to username, and then it'll always give you an issue. So that'll be the trick when we run this part. Just double check. Okay, and then this function is called myPassword. Okay, let's see what we have here. I'm going to do a quick run through before I run it over here. So thousands of lines of code, it's pretty hard. This is about 30 lines. This is not that big of a project in the scheme of things. Okay, so if we're going up here, username, input, we know this part of the code works. So this part of the program looks at password for verification. So now I say I'm asking for password equals enter password, password verification, enter it again. PW, again, just so I don't have any confusion, I'm going to call that PW. It's the same as whatever the password is. Define, I'm going to create a function, password. Global allows me to change the verification password over and over. Again, if I keep typing in the wrong one, that's the placeholder for that variable. Your password is incorrect. Please enter your password again. Then we're going to go down to our while loop. So while password does not equal password verification, is going to keep running this. If password equals password verification, then it will break and go to the end of the program. Else, password, it'll call that password function up here, and it'll keep asking, your password is incorrect. Please enter your password. And then until it matches, it'll keep asking that. And then if we've satisfied both of these, then eventually it'll go down here where it says your username and password are valid. I think we're at a point where we can run it. Let's see if we have any errors. Enter username. Clear the first orbital. All right. Help. All right. Okay. Password. Me. Your username and password are valid. Okay. The only other thing I want to do here, actually, I want to ask for password a little higher. Because a lot of times you're going to be asked for the password pretty close to the initial part of the program. I will keep this one down here in case that doesn't match up. So let's try this real fast. Help. Okay. Hold on. I'm actually going to put password the next one. Okay. Makes a little more sense. So help me. So those are my username and passwords. So now I want to double check my username. Helper. Username's incorrect. Please enter it again. Helpers. Nope. All right. Help. Once I type that in, then it goes, now enter your password again. Okay. So I feel this is a much bit more logical thing. So it was me. So I'm going to type in, my. Misspelled it. There we go. Password's incorrect. Please enter it again. Was it my? Let's try me with an I. Or my with an I. Password's incorrect. All right, let's type in me. So that's the exact one that I typed up here. Your username and password are valid. Okay. The only thing I want to probably show you one more little trick, and this is not really mandatory, but this definitely is a successful program here. So it's asking for a username, a password. They have to match. And they'll keep looping over until you type in the same ones for, again, verification. There is a really unique function. I know you can use this in Jupyter, but I think it's called get pass. Let me see how to set that up. It's been a while since I've done that one. It's not something that's in Python. I think it's get pass. Okay, it's get pass. Okay. Again, I don't remember everything. I barely use all this all the time, but it is very useful if you know where to find the basic information. You have to import getPass. Now that depends if this has that technology. I think it does. So import getPass. Okay, so we're going to import that particular library, and then instead of input, you're going to write getPass.getPass. Okay. I'm going to keep this one super simple. I'm just going to do it for password. So it should mask this. It's a little different in Jupyter. I think it masks it after you type it in versus if you're in, say, Jupyter, it just shows asterisks. So I do like this one better. At least let us double check it. I do want to do the same thing, get pass. You have to import the library first. That's how this recognizes that you're using that function. And then every time we type that in, okay, I think this is how this one's going to get set up. Okay, that should be it right there. So as long as you have import guest pass, we can, instead of input, you're going to swap out that for get pass. Okay, let's see if we got this one right now. Should make it interesting. Okay, so help me. Now, if you notice, me just disappeared. So we know it's working. For this one, it lets you see it, but then it immediately deletes it. Now, if you're in, say, Jupiter, it just has the asterisk there and you don't even see what you type. So that's a little, yeah, little harder. Helper, incorrect username, type it again. Okay, so we've mastered that one. Enter my password again. Oh, I forgot what I typed. WY or MY. Nope. Darn, hope I remember that. What about if I type in MO? Nope. All right, how about ME? All right, now it's valid. So if you notice, it hides it. So that's how you can mask your data for username or password. Because think about it, a lot of times if you're making a password, you don't want someone to see it. So it's a good way to sort of implement that within this particular program. So anyways, I hope you found this useful. Let me know if you have any questions. My best advice is just kind of go through this program, chunk it up, watch it in maybe 5 to 7 minute intervals, and it should get you in the right direction. All right, thank you very much.